Hello and welcome to the latest episode of Harmonious World. My name is Hilary Seabrook, and for this episode I'm joined by pianist Phil Merriman. Phil's new album, The Roots Beneath, is out now, and what you're listening to is Reliance. I'm really looking forward to chatting with Phil. He's got a very, very interesting style. I hope you enjoy listening to our conversation. Hey,
Hi, hi there, Hilary. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
Yeah, very well. Thank you for doing this.
Well, thank you so much for joining me. Harmonious World is just a passion project that started during lockdown that's become so much more than that, and I'm really grateful for your time.
Such a pleasure. Thank you.
So, I really like this album, The Roots Beneath. Tell me when you wrote all of these pieces.
So I wrote these pieces over a course of Thursdays. I realized that music wasn't going to happen without me choosing to put time aside. I've been playing in other people's projects for a while, for a long time, and it's been a long time since I released my own music. And came to the conclusion of I need to put some time aside. And actually, it came around the time that my children were both going to school from 9 till 3 at the same time. Suddenly freed up some space in the week, and I just thought I'm going to give myself Thursdays from 9 till 3 to sit at the piano with blank manuscript, and choose to kind of say no to other things in that moment. And yeah, I mean, it's probably a classic kind of compositional story of sometimes you get nothing, and then sometimes something would happen, and it became a really precious time, actually, just that Thursday. Sometimes it would be, like I say, a painful 6 hours. Sometimes it would be a joyous thing, and you feel like, oh, I didn't quite, I haven't made the most of it. I want to get even more out of this time. So yeah, it was over the process of probably 9 months or so of writing. I knew who I had in mind for the project. I like to write specifically for people rather than just music, open ended. So yeah, it was a Thursday project.
That's such an interesting concept. I love the idea. So I have a similar sort of layout to my week in that I know when I'm going to be doing certain things. But I've never heard a musician go, right, that's what I'm going to do. I think it's Hemingway who said, if you want to be a writer, write,
Yeah,
set aside time
yeah,
where you just sit and write. And it for all the days when what you find at the end of the day is like, well, okay, it's okay, but it's not great. There'll be other days where you've done 3 songs, I guess, or whatever.
absolutely, absolutely. I mean, probably in the back of my mind, I was inspired. I'd looked around the Red House, Benjamin Britten's home, and kind of heard about his compositional story of, he had this just a rigid structure. There's time. I'm sure many composers have. But before breakfast I do this many hours, and then after breakfast I do this, and then I go for that kind of.
Yeah.
I think I was just inspired by that as well in the background.
Yeah, and it's really interesting that I think when there is a discipline behind your creativity, it somehow allows you to get rid of all the other stuff.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean in this culture as well. Britain didn't have that in the same way, but choosing not to uh, go onto the phone or access emails and that sort of stuff. I find
Yeah.
that's more the discipline as much as the writing is the discipline. Choosing to say no to stuff as well as then what you're saying yes to is time on the instrument. But
Yeah.
it's the discipline of saying no to engaging with all the other stuff that's coming at you. So.
Yeah. And you've got a very interesting background, haven't you, in terms of your, classical musical training, but then moving into improvisation. Because when I started, I often tell this story. When I started Harmonious World, I got myself very organized and I had two folders. So I had three folders. I had a harmonious world folder, which was where I put the episodes when they were recorded. Then I had a classical downloads and I had a jazz downloads. Within
Wow.
about 3 weeks, I was like, I don't know where to put things.
Brilliant.
So now they still go in one of those, but often, like yours, it's
Yeah.
like not really sure because it's definitely jazz because there's an improvisational element, but it's contemporary classical music as well. So
Yeah, yeah, that's always been a thing for me. If even even when I'm teaching, being in institutions where there's a jazz teacher and a classical teacher,
yeah,
stuff is so easily divided. And for me, it's always been one and the same, and the two have always merged. I specifically went to York University to study because it was the only course I could find that would embrace both in equal measure. And it was just a unique course where I could learn jazz piano with John Taylor, who happened to be there at the time that I was there, which is
wow,
incredible kind of things coming together at the right time. And then I also was, working on Bach and playing Berg and Bartok with my classical teacher at the same time. And I've always loved that learning from one and taking it across to the other. In fact, I've just been working on some music today, playing some Gershwin preludes and trying to improvise over them. So trying to kind of take from one thing and kind
yeah.
of put it into the other. So yeah,
Yeah, and I often hear musicians, especially pianists, talking about the fact that if Bach was alive in the 20th century, he would have written jazz because
yes,
and he would have
yeah,
played jazz because that's
it's
kind of
just
yes, what you do.
absolutely,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah. There's a similar story about Shakespeare. If Shakespeare was alive in the 21st century, he'd be writing for EastEnders, you know. And it is
Brilliant.
about context, isn't it?
It is. It is. I,
So,
I would love
yeah.
to, to come and go and see. Which club do you think Bach would have chosen had he come towards the UK? Where would he be more at the Vortex or at Ronnie's or?
No, he'd love the 606.
Yeah, yeah, oh, yeah, okay. He'd be at the
Do you know what
six,
I
would
mean? He'd
he?
be sitting in the 606 like in the afternoon when he's supposed to be sound checking, and
Yeah,
he'd be like playing stuff that would be so intricate, and then he'd play something completely different in the actual gig.
so good, so good. I love that.
It's brilliant. Um, right, so you went to University of York and you studied both jazz and classical, and you've been working with Simon Roth quite a lot, haven't you, on drums?
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, we met at York, and we've been playing on and off ever since. Well, mostly on actually, in different settings. We've had a duo project that's been going right since then. Actually, um, we haven't made recordings, but we've gigged as a duo, and really, there's been an embracing of the duo. But at the same time, in the back of my mind, at least, has always been how would this sound as a third, as a trio. And actually, we tried many different bass players and iterations, not with a kind of force, let's try and make this work, but just over the years. We've been playing for 18 years together. Um, and I did a separate gig with John Williamson on bass, and it was just, it felt like, maybe this is the guy to bring to the duo and then see, and it slotted in. But yeah, it's just been a beautiful kind of 18 years of creating and discovering music with Simon. And the same with Raf, who produced the album. We were at York as well together. And there's I chose him specifically to bring out the kind of the creativity that I see in Raf and in his music, but also the kind of shared experiences that we've had together over the years. It was a really really lovely thing to bring
Yeah,
him in.
yeah, and Raphael Clarkson, isn't it?
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, he feels like he's more than, I mean, I don't think anybody is just a producer, but sometimes it feels like a producer just sort of comes in and does the job.
Yeah.
But this
Yeah.
feels more creative.
Yeah, my favorite memory of Raf on the recording of this album was we were playing the piece called Shoulder Ride, which I dedicated to my boy who loves the shoulder ride, and we did a couple of takes and just thought, this is cool, but it's sounding a bit adult. It sounds a bit. We just wanted more element of fun, and Raf came down from the engineering room down into the recording studio and said, right, what we're going to do is just play a little game of it. And he got us. You just playing tag basically, about 5 minutes, and that was what we needed. You know, just a little bit of childhood fun and games. And we talk about music playing together, and I love that. I think it's really specifically we play together, we don't work together. And he really brought that play element. And then there was the take that we used after that was the one that has gone down on the album. But yeah, I don't know how many producers do that, but to think outside of the box rather than using words to describe, play more like this, or have you just coming into the room and like, let's just play a game.
That's really interesting, because before we started, I'd already decided that I was going to. So I like to play tracks, a bit at the beginning, bit at the end, bit in the middle. So the bit at the beginning, I played a bit of Reliance because I like that. Yeah. And at the end, I'm playing Now and Not Yet. And I'd already decided I was going to play an extract from Shoulder Ride at this point in the yeah. So because I think that fun bit really comes across.
I'm glad it does, and that it's not only was fun in the room and began with a game of it, but I'm glad it's come across to the listener as well. So thank you.
I think that track definitely conveys what the topic was somehow, Shoulder Ride, because we've all either done those shoulder, or we've either been the person on the bottom of the, the child on the top kind of thing. And I think it's a lovely sensation that there's a closeness to it and a fun, which I think comes across in the track.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, brilliant. So what next? Are you taking this trio out live?
Yes. So we launched it at not the Vortex, sorry, we launched it at the 606 2 weeks ago, and that was a great kind of celebration, and it kind of marked the second part of the work, I suppose. Kind of, there's so much going up to, the release, and then you get the release, you're like, oh, there's this whole second part.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I'm actually spending this week just doing all the classic emailing and contacting the more regional circuit. So getting onto that in the coming months. Yeah,
fantastic. Well, I will point people to your website so that they can see where to catch you live, because I think this would be a really interesting series of gigs, because I love trios, particularly because they seem very intimate, and to see that the connection between the three people on stage, because I'm a sax player, so I love that whole kind of bringing a sax player in, but sometimes that can feel like it almost breaks that triplet trio thing.
I really wanted to, for this album, to embrace the trio thing, and people had said to me, you'll get more traction with a guest, you'll get more traction with maybe bringing in a few different frontline horns and things like that. But I think I just had a sound in my mind. I really wanted to go for that. So maybe at the expense of some of the traction, or some of the labels and things like that. much rather just think, right, this is the music that I wanted to make and I wanted to record, and
yeah,
it's a joy playing with those guys. So.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, that is brilliant. So I wish you all the very, very best with this album and taking it out. So
Thank you.
yeah, good luck with it.
Thank you so much.
Well, that was a delightful conversation. I hope you enjoyed listening in. As I said to Phil, what I'm playing to finish this episode is Now and Not Yet, also from The Roots Beneath. I hope you enjoyed listening to my conversation with Phil Merriman. Have a very harmonious week. Please remember to share this episode if you enjoyed it. Look back at some of the others. We're now over 225 episodes in. If you can tag me on social media, that would be great. And use the hashtag #ShareHarmony. But thanks for joining me, and I hope you have a very harmonious week. Thank you for listening to the latest episode of Harmonious World. My name is Hilary Seabrook, and it's a great delight to bring this series of discussions with musicians and composers and writers and all sorts of people to you. Obviously, there's no point in having a podcast if people aren't listening, and I'm very grateful to my listeners for doing so. Thanks also to Joe English for composing and performing this new theme tune. So wherever you get your podcast, you can leave a review. You can share this with your friends and family, either as a link or on social media and that sort of thing. I'd be really grateful for that. Don't forget that you can subscribe now. There's a link wherever you get your podcasts. So have a great week, and please remember why I started this, which is just to try and make the world a little more harmonious. Thanks for listening to Harmonious World.